Welcome back to another episode of Down the Pipeline. Today, I found four Kickstarters that I found were really interesting or had a unique spin on role playing or on the industry in its entirety. Um, some are from games that you'll know, like Fate. Others have no connection to any current system and have a really unique twist. So we'll jump right into it, with the first game being Ultimum by Paradigm Publishing. Now, this game is a straight sci-fi game. There's no, cross use for magic. There's no real tie-in to anything else currently, and the setting on the surface doesn't look anything too particularly unique in a way. You've got uplifted animals, much like Eclipse Phase. You've got weirdly genetically modified crocodiles, apes. All these really cool things. And at first, I myself am not usually one to be like, oh, animal, hybrid characters. But this game actually does it in a way that it feels gritty all at the same time. It doesn't feel like, oh, we're gonna, play with animals. They make it have this very serious undertone and create this setting where mankind has moved out into space and found that humans weren't the most liked race in the galaxy, and aliens frowned upon it. And it looks like humans then decided genetically modifying animals to create soldiers, to create this, that, and the other. Now, all of this is great and grand. It actually looks like it creates a really cool world. There's a alternate Earth map. That's the setting that this game takes place in, and the system's really simple. Your attributes are based on have a die size as opposed to a numerical value, and your skills have a die size as opposed to a numerical value. And you just roll the two together, and you try and get higher than the other person who's rolling against you. So I really like this mechanic just in general. I prefer a mechanic that has a high variability, just because it gets kind of dull when you roll your die and you go, oh, I rolled really low. I know I miss. I really like I rolled really low, but I could still hit. Just the same way I like that if I roll really high, there's still that chance that I don't hit. It creates that really cool tension at the table, just in that sense of you're never guaranteed really that you're gonna hit or you're gonna miss. And I really enjoy that. I think it keeps the energy really high at the table. But what really is just awesome in my mind for this game is how it's designed to be cross-platformed. So you can play with just your book and your dice like any like normal game, but it also is designing apps that your players and your storyteller can link up that way. So I have a book and I'm running a game, and say I also have this app, because it seems like if you're the storyteller, you kind of have to have both if you're going to utilize it all. But so I have a book and I have the app. Well, one guy over there, he only has a book, and the other guy over there, he doesn't have his dice or his book, so he's just using his app. And there's no problem with how this plays, because the guy with the app will just will link into the network that is my GM app, and it'll interact normally, and I'll see his dice rolls, I'll have access to his character sheet and all the rules and everything. And I really like this, because as we kind of evolve out into, a lot of people are using PDFs, and PDFs are a lot cheaper a lot of the times, sometimes by $20 or $30. I'm finding, and also, not everyone can, go to their store and pick up dice. There's like one store around me within like 30 miles. So, it's Amazon or going into a store. So in this, time when people are switching more to, PDFs and online gaming, just, through Roll20 or whatever, I really like this because it's trying really hard to integrate seamlessly into the actual physical book and dice game. So I think that's really cool, and they're doing it in a really smart way. But the thing that really is cool is at the end of session you can fill out these forms online through the apps that will be relayed back to the creators, who will then kind of sort through all of it and find out where the general amount of playing is occurring, where big events are happening. If you're running pre-made modules, what happened for you. And generally, then they'll take that information and allow it to shape how they expand the setting and how they alter the setting, and how the general course of events plays out. And I think that's really cool because no longer is it my group playing here in our self-contained little bubble, and a group across the country playing in their own bubble, and the creators are in some other area and they're developing in their own little bubble. Now there's the option that what I do can affect someone across the country's story, and if they so choose. I mean, obviously you can just ignore it and not have any of that happen, but the option exists for me to affect someone else's story and them to affect my story, and both of our groups to affect everyone else's stories. And I think that's really cool as a way of connecting players just from all over. So this is actually a Kickstarter that if I can get together $90, I'm throwing down. Like, no doubt about it. This Kickstarter is actually it's not funded yet. It's got 22 days left and is 1,500 short. And honestly, if I get $90 within the next 22 days, it's going straight for this Kickstarter because I think this is a really cool. Like I said, I'm not a huge fan of animal human hybrids, but the way that this game is portraying them, both in art and in setting, it seems like they've done it in a very serious way. It's not just like, oh, some gimmicky thing. It seems like they did it in a very real way, a very serious way, and have created awesome characters with it. And I encourage you strongly, more so than really any other Kickstarter I've encouraged, to check this one out because I think this is really cool. And I would love to see this type of idea kick off where groups of players can actually influence the setting that everyone plays. And I think it's a great idea, and I'd like to see it happen more. So check it out. Still got 22 days. I'll put a link down below, as I always do. And we'll roll right on into the next Kickstarter, which is actually a game called Scavengers, which some of y'all might have actually seen. There's been a playtest by the Dice Stormers recently that actually showcased this game. They ran a session of it. And this is rules light game. It's much more comedic than some of the games I typically do, where your characters play members that of an organization that are essentially scavengers. As all these factions are blowing each other apart and doing battle and trying to fight for the control of the system, you play scavengers and you go to these battle sites after the fact and pick apart whatever you can, take whatever of value, and return back to your base, and that's it. Now, this game actually on the surface, it sounds fun, but you kind of question, like I did, like how is that really viable for real prolonged story? And the answer is you essentially play it. You could do it like Firefly. You have a series of wrecks. It's very episodic. I actually really like this because I typically run games that are very serious, hardcore campaigns, for lack of a better term. But having the option that because everyone has times where one or two or three players can't show up, and this is the type of game that I think could fit really nicely because it's role playing still. It's not like oh, we're gonna we can't game tonight, guys. We're just gonna do board games. Like, no, this is still role playing, but I really like it because it's easy to pick up, it's easy to get into, and you can have a lot of fun with it, and for a very low buy-in cost, in the sense of reading and character design. There's not like pages of feats or abilities or skills or whatever. And so I really like this, and just because it's humorous, it's very light and lackadaisical in that sense. So it's really easy to get new players into role playing. If no one's ever played, I mean, this is a great introductory game because you don't need to drop mountains of plot on them and political intrigue and super seriousness. All you really need to do to get someone in is kind of ease them in. You know, give them a little bit of a taste of it and allow them to kind of draw themselves in. And this one's actually by Metal Wave Games. I should have said that at the beginning, but it's been funded. It's just over 1,000 of its funding goal, and it still has 15 days to go. So there should be a lot of stretch goals that can be hit if this game picks up. And generally, and again, it's another sci-fi game. As you can tell. So I think it'll be a really fun game. This one, I don't know if I can get the money together, I might throw in a little bit, get the PDF at least, because this is a game that I think will be fun to play. I think it'd be fun to run, and generally, I mean, it just seems like a really good game to play. And we'll roll into the next one. Now this is one that is a supplement for a game. This is Shadowcraft: The Glamour War by the same people who did Jade Empire, I believe it was. Um, I think it was Jade Empire. Anyway, this company has already put out other supplements for Fate Core, and this is uh, a espionage styled fantasy game. This plays in all the tales of the Fae and kidnapping children and everything. And your characters are all descendants of them. And it is a high espionage mage game. And I think this is really cool because I really enjoy spy movies. I think they can have some of the greatest plots, the greatest twists. They can have all this really cool stuff and believable villains. Sometimes they're just kind of cheesy villains, but those are all right. But I really like this because it takes folklore that everyone has heard about and read about and everything, and a lot of games use, and then draws it and makes it its own. So you got games like Changeling that play with the Fae for World of Darkness and stuff like that, but you don't typically have games where you play in the Fae. You are descendants of the Fae, and just generally espionage games aren't very prominent that I've found. They occasionally crop up, but they're like a secondary genre to a larger setup. Whereas this espionage Cold War, that's the thing about this game. It's really cool because it's Fate, which I haven't really played Fate, but what I've read is really interesting. It's really rules light. It's really easy to get into, and it's very versatile, and I like that. And this game, it plays with all of those elements, adds a couple new ones, and generally I just think will be a fun game. Like I said, I don't own Fate. I've never actually played Fate. But I keep seeing these settings, and I may actually have to pick up one of these settings and the game of Fate Core just so I can see what it's all about. But I generally like this setting. The art's really good. The art that they showcase, and I actually want to see this one get funded, if for no other reason to see more espionage style games kind of roll out there, so that the market gets a little bit more diversity. And finally, we've got a game that's really just. This is one that kind of turns everything on its head. It's called Mistos by Blackstone Entertainment, and it's got a semi-simplified dice mechanic. It's got a rock paper scissors style, where you have four sets of dice. You've got, sorry, it's two sets of dice. You've got defense dice and you've got attack dice. I believe that's how it might be. Yeah, it's two sets with. You'll understand in a second. You've got attack and melee attack and magical attack on the same dice, and you've got that's what it looks like at least, and magical defense and melee defense on another set of dice. And it has this rock paper scissors mechanics where there's three faces for each, um, and you roll your dice when you roll your attack, and you get this demon beats tower, and so on and so forth. And that's how it is. It's that rock paper scissors where there's like demon dragon and staff versus like shield tower and raven. Those actually aren't the three. I'm just making that up, but you get the idea. And then like demon beats this, and this and so on and so forth. And it's really it's a cool mechanic. I think once you get used to it, it would obviously become second nature. Like, oh, that always beats this. This always beats that. I think at first though, it's a bit weighty in the sense that you have to keep remembering what beats what, and maybe have a table or something. But what makes this game really weird is not its grim, fantasy setting, this dark fantasy setting. It's the fact that there's only two classes. That's it. You are either a warrior or a wizard. Now, this is cool and kind of bad at the same time. I'll start with the bad. I think it's bad because obviously that means I'm either a warrior or I'm a wizard. There's no I'm a priest, there's no I'm a rogue, there's no I'm a ranger, there's none of this. However, it's really cool because it means that those classes, they're much lighter and less defined than something like D&D. So it also kind of shapes how the game is going to be played. Like if you are a wizard or a warrior, you know for a fact that you are not going to be involved in high stealth campaigns. You are not going to be involved in these hard religious conflicts or anything like that. You know that by that token, you are going to be embroiled in fighting and mysticism. And I think that's really cool in the sense that the classes kind of help shape the setting, and that defines the setting. So, I mean, religion's probably not a big thing. Cutthroats, while they're probably going to be a big thing, just, replaced with warriors, it means that your warrior is now much more versatile. And I really like that. This one actually is not funded yet. They're 1,000 short, but they still have 23 days to go. And the reward tiers for this game are actually pretty cool. It's got a really low buy-in to get the PDF. And I think if you back to like $50, you can even get like an NPC like put into the setting that will be, pretty critical to the growth of the setting and everything, which I think is really nice, because too often do you see games where you back to like $50 and you barely get anything, or you just barely scrape by getting the stuff that you want. But this one's like $50 and you get all this stuff, and you get you get to be put in the setting and get to see it grow around that character if you are actually invested in the game. And I think that's really cool. And like I said, it's still got 23 days to go. And it's got an interesting setting. And the dice mechanics just, yet again, it's another lightweight game. I think that, if you began to play it and get used to it, you second nature what beats what, how to, all that stuff. But I'll put links for all of these down below. And like I said, I encourage you to check out all of them, but if you only check out one, check out Ultimum. I think that's definitely the coolest one. And until next week, take it easy.